Hey everybody, welcome to I think what is in all likelihood the final episode of the Dan and Matt show for 2023. Just hope it's all been unchaotic, and if it has been chaotic, I hope you're coming through it okay. Just a little positive mental wellness vibes coming at you courtesy of the Dan and Matt show. So, how are you doing, Dan?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. Doing pretty good. I was fortunate to have like a pretty nice, chill couple of days off, like over the past couple of days for the whole holiday
Awesome.
situation, and I go back to work tomorrow morning.
Same as
Um,
me.
yep, and yeah, no, I've had a pretty good time. You know, just mostly just hanging out with Jen and with the dog, who is here with me now as well.
Okay. So,
Um,
Jen being the SO,
yes,
and
Jen being my girlfriend
yeah, and the dog's name
is
Henry. If
Henry.
I can
Yes.
disclose things that you say on to millions of people that you don't know. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll just say I've had, for my own part, a pretty. Um, I've moved from like living in a museum, kind of upstairs in my previous apartment situation, which was fully tricked out, fully like I'm paying BC level prices for just like anyway, it was off the hook. But now I moved into a place that's at half the price point, same building, just moved downstairs. I call it the bunker. It's like the garden bunker. Actually, that's Paula. My SO came up
Uh,
with it. She was like, "Yeah, it's a bunker, and it's really sparse." And she's like, "It's like you. This place reminds me of you." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna take that backhanded compliment for exactly what it's worth." And yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like 2023 generally was sort of chaotic for me, but chaotic has also been the norm for me for a number of years. But I do feel ultimately quite good about how things are winding
mm,
down. Whereas mainly on account of having a job where I didn't for a while. So, anyways, man, why don't we cut to the chase? This is our some of our favorites of 2020-23. I've
exactly.
somewhat already guessed. And Dan, why don't we even just jump in here? What's your number one on your list, my friend?
Well, it was actually a really good year for music, honestly.
I think so
Um,
too. Totally.
yeah. First off, I mean, before we get to the new stuff, I just want to say there were so many great reissues this year too. To start off, I know I think we both have copies of that awesome Shotmaker 3 LP box set reissue. Mine's here under a pile of a couple other things as well. Yeah, I got mine here also.
You got
Um,
yours still in the plastic, man. What's with that?
well, I haven't. I didn't want to just like have like the loose box raw dogging it on the shelf just yet. So I still
Fair
had some of the
enough.
shrink wrap on the outside.
Okay.
And none of the plastic bags I have are quite big enough. Um, I
Legit.
know.
I'm just like, please tell me you're not going to try and resale that,
Oh God,
in
no, no, no,
condition
no.
6 months later for $100 more than what you paid for it because that's your
Yeah,
thing. I know that
no,
you're not, but just
yeah, I'm
man,
not.
I couldn't wait to get my sweaty hands all over this, man.
Yeah,
I played the shit out of it on my stereo. I listened to nothing but it for a week,
mm,
basically as soon as I got it, and I'm not, I don't think I've been more psyched. I'm like I keep like I'm literally like these dudes. were like literally active. This set 93 to 96. Those were literally the years that I was in high school. Um, and for me, like I'm just like, and then the bass player, the kid who went on to be work at OCAD and be a serious
Yeah.
artist. I'm like, can you imagine? This is just like your throwaway high school fucking angst art project, and like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that fucking chapbook I did with Joe Blades,
Yeah.
and like imagine if that just suddenly turned into something that sold 50,000 copies for no, like it's just these dudes were just so fucking, they were so far ahead of the
Mm-hmm.
curve, and I keep listening to it now, and I'm just like, I'm amazed. Like I don't know if it's just deep seated nostalgia or what,
Yeah.
but the music still resonates with me very much. I don't know, man.
Oh, it's still
Sorry to
totally.
monopolize your conversation here,
No,
but
no, no. That's okay. No, that one in particular totally stands up. Like there were a couple other. I wanted to kind of like shout out a few other reissues that happened this year as well. Like De La Soul's catalog finally ending up on
fucking
streaming in
A,
early March,
all
which was
overdue.
great, and getting some vinyl reissues as well after that stuff was like tied up in like sample clearance hell forever. Um, and actually another one here that I have a real copy of that I picked up a little while ago was a reissue of Victoria band Jonas.
Dude, can you
From
speak more to that? Because I don't think you mentioned them before.
I haven't mentioned them before. They're not like they didn't actually exist all that long. They were only around for like a couple of years in the mid '90s in Victoria. But their vocalist Haji ended up playing in that band Wolf Parade that were on
Shit,
Sub Pop.
really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the sort of like
Free
keyboard
Wolf
player from
Parade,
Wolf
folks. You
Parade.
heard it here first. Okay.
But it's like really fast, heavy, like technical, kind of like sort of straddling the line between like hardcore and like just straight up grindcore kind of stuff.
Fucking A.
And like Haji's got very abrasive vocals on most of it. And they were a band that existed basically in Victoria, basically just before I moved there. And all those guys had kind of like, it's like they were done with their like, kind of like their fast and heavy crazy grindcore phase, and they were moving on to all these other different kind of projects instead. So, and like it was that era where it's like if you didn't get however many copies of the cassette, then you just there you go. You heard somebody talk about what a great show that was when that band played whatever basement. And yeah, I know I shout out Supreme Echo Records a lot, but yeah, again, that's another one of their recent releases is this Jonas Patterns of Dominance LP. I picked this up recently with a couple other things of theirs, and yeah, it's just pretty cool. Like if you like sort of the fast and heavy stuff, with kind of like ties to Canadian indie rock of the aughts, like it's pretty cool. Like
And
I
who
enjoy it.
doesn't? Come on. You know you
Exactly.
like it. If you're listening to this podcast at all, this is exactly the kind of thing you should like, right?
And
I mean, honestly.
there's a couple other reissues that are definitely on my want list that came out recently, which was SSD Control from Boston re-released their Kids Will Have Their Say LP from 1982. And in the past few years, I've ended up following their guitarist Al Burrill, who's like just a retired engineer from a GE plant in Massachusetts, who like played in a hardcore band when he was in his early 20s, and now he's in his 60s, like going through some health stuff. But like, and his wife is like, she's a writer now, and like has put out like one of the things she did was she put out like an archival photo book about the band with like interviews and stuff. And then sort of pivoting off of that, they ended up doing a 40th anniversary re-release of their LP, which was like self-released in Boston in the early 80s. Like there only however many, like probably a couple thousand copies originally, and then that was that. And they went on to try other things later on, but this was like their really short, fast, angry, sort of, yeah, just like the beginnings of hardcore, like one of those bands that would have been playing with like Minor Threat and like Bad Brains and Black Flag and stuff like that when they came through Boston. And there's another reissue that just came out that I think I'm probably going to try and pick up next paycheck, which is a great Italian anarcho-punk band called Contrappotere, who
Italian anarcho-punk.
who they're
That's the
so
level of
anarchist
indie
that
punk
they say
nerdism
that
you're here for,
their
folks.
7-inch that I was like the piece of music of theirs that I first sort of became acquainted with and first sort of fell in love with, Solo Selvaggi from 1992. That the last song on that is actually them covering like a traditional like anti-authoritarian pirate drinking song from like whatever like medieval period of Italian history. Yeah, and they're just kind of like fast and loud and thrashy and angry with these weird kind of like pleasant melodic piano bits, and like the singer, I'm pretty sure she must be classically trained, because it's like, you know, it's like Motorhead taking it's one of those things where like, you know, a song starts out sounding like Motorhead and then takes a slight detour into sounding like Tori Amos for about 30 seconds. And then just this other like, you know, fast thrashy part. Like, they're pretty great. And their original demo, I'm gonna mispronounce it, Arrivato Apuk, which is a reference to like a William Burroughs piece.
Of course.
Apuk the Destroyer.
Any other way.
Yeah, exactly. That just got re-released, and I kind of can probably, I know someone that has a copy that I can probably still get, and that I'm hoping to maybe get. But yeah, just a lot of really cool reissues just off the bat, and then so many other great new bands too. Like, it's just blowing my mind. But yeah, first off, my first thing I just wanted to start out by saying, like, just great reissues in general. Specifically that Shotmaker record or Shotmaker box set.
I had just a couple of mental sort of seizures. Just I don't know. It was like what you were pointing out or how you were describing it. I'm just like, and then the Tori Amos emo woman breakdown in the middle of the thing. I'm like, oh my god. I mean, and
yeah,
but then
there were bands that I know were like influential in like Submission Hold, for example.
Right,
like, I know those folks are fans of theirs. Like, yeah. Like, it's kind of like one of those bands is like sort of the roots of that sort of sound, but in like the mid to late, so like the late 80s, early 90s, like, so and in Europe.
Folks, one of these, of course, is fucking Europe. Like,
yeah, the total like the like, you know, we bought this art center from the local like estate council for $1. And now, you know, we run it as a collective. And
they promised to run the squatters out. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, it's like we run. No, it's like the squat. They are the squatters. Like, you know,
the squatters each ponied up $2.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like that's sort of like the whole like, you know,
that's Tony like Blair in a nutshell. Anyway,
there's like a long sort of history, like, sort of like squatted art center kind of like scene in Europe, and they were one of those bands that sort of traveled a lot around the Italian end of it. But anyways, yeah, that was mine. Just like a lot of cool reissues from the start.
I would just say, to finally add to that, like, if we actually grow a pair and do a show about our favorite woman, like only female artists, and just like
maybe that could be next episode.
Well, man, I mean, I'm the producer. I'm just like, let's get it onto the website and get it onto Spotify. And Dan's sort of like the overall direction of the show and theming and intellectual and cultural legitimacy. I'm just kind of executing on the deliverables they're put in front of me, you know. So, I mean, I'll just be like, I'm the most bro, middle-aged, you know, fucking woke wannabe, like fucking whatever. It's just like, let's just fucking do it. Let's just not be cowards more than we already are. Okay, swell. Things to look forward to in the upcoming year, folks. You know, so reissues. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I mean, fucking speaking of things, between Shotmaker and the Replacements, which many of you know,
yeah, the Replacements one.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, if you add, you know, if you had to reduce the music that I was most passionate about and committed to for a certain period of time, you know, you throw this along with Husker Du and you know, it's just it's a pretty limited set, which led to a whole bunch of other directions for me. And the Replacements, well, for whatever reason, it was like they did a fucking miserable job of looking after their own career when they were like actually active. But since then, due in a very large part to Bob Mayer, their biographer, the guy who wrote Trouble Boys, their biography from a few years back, it was a #1 New York Times bestseller in like, you know, music biographies or whatever. So, I mean, it went mainstream enough to the point that, you know, some years later, after their sort of little mini reunion where they did, you know, 50 or 60 shows, including Riot Fest in Toronto, you know, they've done a really good job of curating their post peak, you know, career, because everyone was like, these dudes, it was part of the mystique. It's like these dudes fucking underperform and blow themselves up on the regular, and let's put them on the biggest stage that we can to watch it happen, because Paul Westerberg is and remains a fucking songwriting god, unparalleled in the fucking mainstream, you know, for people of Gen X. You mentioned Paul Westerberg, if I can get misty-eyed, like, oh my dear Lord.
Catnip.
It's just like you start to get wet in your you know, in your jeans, just, you know, whatever your thing is, right? Because you're right. Yeah. Anyway, I'm good. So I'll spare you. I'll spare you from my lengthy, more than I already have, believe it or not. And I'll just say kudos to everybody who's involved. And this is the last thing I'll go out on with this is, it actually, you know, when this came out, because every friggin' year, like they've had, like, it's like Bob Mayer presented, you know, Paul Westerberg or whoever represents him. He's like this friggin', you know, Salinger motherfucker, you know, the guy who wrote the, you know, Catcher in the Rye, and then he's like, he's got all this fucking stuff in his basement and nobody even knows, but you know, it's awesome. And you know, you get whoever his representation is, in with Tommy Stinson's representation, and you know, Chris Mars and whatever. You loop them all in, and you get them. And so this is just, they're gonna do a few more of these things before they're done. And I, for one, can't hardly fucking wait. So I'm sure I have more to say to that was better, but in true Replacements fashion, I'll leave it at that for now. So thank you all for perhaps the most personally. Oh, and before I forget, I've got 3 pieces of clothes on me. Tommy Stinson of the Replacements released a record this year. It's really freaking good. Cowboys in the Campfire. I had the fucking chance to see Tommy Stinson, one of my favorite musicians of all time, at the fucking Capitol in Fredericton. And I was so broke and pathetically miserable at the time. I just was like, yep, bought the ticket, can't go. One of those. And yeah, anyway, ending it on a positive note, fighting, as the Koreans say. What's your number 2, dude?
My number 2 is the most recent album by Boston's Fiddlehead, Death Is Nothing to Us. I think I sent it to you in Facebook Messenger. Like, I think I sent you the link saying you might be into it, but it was in with some other stuff.
I'm glad it's going to be in the show notes.
It will definitely be in the show notes. They've been around since, I think, like the early 2000 teens, fronted by a guy named Pat Flynn, who spent a lot of time previously in like a straight edge hardcore band called Have Heart. And Fiddlehead is, I don't want to say his emo band, but, you know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and plays big, epic, open, melodic chords about like kind of like mortality and fatherhood and like, you know, just like contemplating existence and that kind of thing, while calling back to like a lot of artists like, yeah, like Hot Water Music and like, you know, just a lot of those kind of like just just gruff, melodic, no other way to call it, emo kind of sounds. And yeah, I've really been into it. Their previous album from 2021, Between the Richness, was my first time really kind of getting into them. Like, I missed the boat on Have Heart. They were a thing that I just wasn't into at the time that they were around, for lack of a better term or lack of a better description. But a friend of mine had been, when Between the Richness came out, a friend of mine had been talking about, how much they enjoyed the band. So I figured I'd check it out. And yeah, I thought that album was pretty good. So yeah, when Death Is Nothing to Us came out this fall, it was like something that just ended up in regular rotation for me. And yeah, like, it's definitely worth checking out. You can get it via Bandcamp as well. It's on your streaming services and stuff.
I'm raising my hand, dude. I'm
Yeah.
raising my hand. I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question. What the fuck happened to Bandcamp this year?
They've unfortunately changed hands.
I heard that.
And had some staffing transformation situations, unfortunately. I mean, it still exists as a place to like buy and sell music, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that, like, the people that owned it for a long time and built it sold it to some venture capitalists, and then those venture capitalists sold it to the people that make Fortnite, and then the people that make Fortnite sold it to some other people, and then those people fired a bunch of people that had just unionized in their like editorial department, and that wasn't cool.
Shitty. Way
yeah.
shitty.
And it still exists as a platform for now, but the people that are still there, from what I can tell from social media, it seems like, it's one of those like, I'm pretty sure they're still doing their Bandcamp Fridays, where like more of the proceeds go to the artist, like on specific Fridays of the month.
Is Bandcamp shittier than Spotify or not? Or is it like shitty?
It was like way better. It's more so. It's not so much shittier. It's that it's being gutted.
Okay.
Is the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. It's Spotify is still like one of those like, like
everything I read about
I use
that,
it, but it's really it seems like it's one of those like, existing in modern day kind of things to consume media sometimes. Like, I've been trying to buy more physical media lately, but it's still, there's some stuff that I still listen to electronically. And yeah, Bandcamp is good because you can buy electronic copies as well.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And like download them on your own. And they have like a little app you can listen to stuff in also. But yeah, like I said, to my knowledge, the company has changed hands a few times. Or like in the past couple of years. Yeah.
It's
and it was and it was like
it's a handy.
Yeah. And it was like at one point bought by the company that makes Fortnite.
I'm gonna refrain from about Fortnite because I have kids who I literally watch turn into my most prized humans in the whole world. The people I love the most in the whole world, and both of them went through this whole thing. Fortnite. I'm like, fuck off and die. Fortnite is that was my parental opinion of it, kind of at the time. No offense, children, if you're listening. It's like on general principle. That was literally where I became, I'm a fucking mean old man. Get the fuck off my lawn. When I started seeing like my kids just like, well, I bought you the computer and I'm paying your $100, a year subscription to this.
Yeah.
And this is what you're like doing it with. And they're like, back in my pre-internet era, I was like, I had a book and I had a friggin', like whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's kind of, and my kids, they're just like, yeah, Dad, it's cool. Thanks. And then they close the bedroom door. Okay. Good response. Legit. So anyway, man, I've rammed us off on so many different tangents here.
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell me about our number 3? Why don't you tell me about your number 3?
My number 3, you know what?
Yeah.
there's some artists that just kind of, I wouldn't say they're my favorite, but they
Yeah.
have entered. They just, they get in there, and it's all of a sudden, blame it on algorithms or whatever. But it's just
Or the
like,
rain. Yeah.
or the rain, or just the fact that they write some damn good songs. But this is Military Gun.
Man, I feel like I feel guilty for not having listened to them at this point, simply because you mentioned them so many times. Every time I see it on Pitchfork, I'm like, fuck, that sounds rad. I should check that out. Dan's mentioned them, and I utterly failed to. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't know why.
It's okay. You're gonna hear them eventually, I'm sure.
Of course.
That's the thing. That's the thing. It's like it's like I really do. Their new album is like their first actual full length, came out this year. Oh jeez, what was it? Sorry, I just have to look it up quickly. Yeah, Life Under the Gun. And
nice title. The very
they're
on like, well done, children.
A pretty big label at this point, and like they originally started like they're sort of the brainchild of this guy Ian Shelton, who originally was in a band called Regional Justice Center, that were like kind of like a really loud, fast, heavy band. And then he decided, oh god, I swear to God, when I listen to interviews with this band, it's they're every once in a while you hear somebody and it seems like they're just discovering the idea that someone can like play kind of heavy, catchy music and sing.
You're not going to start talking to me about Bring Me the Horizon, are you? Like, what the hell?
No, I'm not. But it's like just the way that this guy gets interviewed sometimes. It's like,
okay,
I really do enjoy their music, but it's like, okay, it's cool, man. It's fine.
Yeah,
we know.
Fine.
We know you're really into.
I don't even know why I'm like against it, but
yeah,
everything you're telling me
and
says
like,
I can just be a grown up and listen. So I'm gonna.
And no, they do write some good songs. That's the thing. And it's like they straddle. It's like their older stuff. Like they released like a couple EPs a couple years ago, and then sort of put them all together as one package. And did this thing that I thought was cool was like they were going to be touring with 3 other bands, including another one that I'm going to talk about later on, MS Paint. And they recorded collaborations with each of the bands that they were going to be touring with, and included them on this like sort of the special tour edition where it was like putting out an LP with all their 7 inches they put out at that point with these 3 other songs at the end with like, a song with them and MS Paint playing a song together, and like them and like, this band from Vancouver they were touring with for part of the shows, like doing a song together, and them and this, and like bands of different styles too. And it's like, they're a pretty versatile band, it seems like. And like it's all folks that sort of come from heavier music deciding to play something catchier is the best way to describe it. And like there's even like, but it's like you hear a bit of like listening to the new album, it's like I hear a little bit of Jawbreaker sometimes, and I hear a little bit of almost like early, like honestly,
man,
like
that's rad.
Like a little, but just like I'd say like, but like no, I'm talking like I'd say Jawbreaker, but like later Jawbreaker, like getting into fist fights backstage era Jawbreaker.
You mean the underappreciated Jawbreaker? Even
yeah, like me, and what's it? They have a few songs that really kind of it's not like they're intentionally cribbing from them, but they really give off a lot of the same vibes of like some of the early Modest Mouse stuff that was a little more chaotic sounding, but still like, with like, a sense of melody to it. And yeah, they're just, it's like they're that fucking fun, catchy band that's probably going to be all over the place in a few years, that like, they could be the Foo Fighters of the.
They're youngsters who are off to a good start.
Exactly, they're young folks off to a good start.
We admire your promise.
And like one of the, I do like the fact that they seem
Turnstile headlining rock.
Exactly, and they seem like they're definitely take a like, rising tide raises all boats sort of approach, and really sort of like try to bring up bands that they like MS Paint, who I'm going to talk about later on. Like that's who they've done a lot of touring with, and who they've really kind of like helped make connections to labels and stuff. Just which I thought was pretty cool, just because yeah, it's nice to see like bands like helping each other out and stuff as well. And yeah, they're 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 they they're a band I like. And you know what? I'm gonna throw one other band in there because they're a band that's toured with Military Gun.
Sure.
Uh they're a band that some people have some hot takes about, but fuck it, I don't care. They're kind of in that same boat of like, younger punks play, taking a turn for the more accessible, but it's Scowl. Um,
Okay, this is we're gonna add this to the list of things I've heard of but have not listened to.
um,
So for those who are thusly uninitiated, can you do the 1 minute preamble prior to? I'm assuming they have a record out this year, which is why you're
yeah,
adding to
they
this.
have they put in an EP this
Okay.
year called Psychic Dance Routine.
So
Uh,
who are they and why should I be interested?
they are a band from the Bay Area. Started so this around the mid 2000 teens. Um, they put out their first full length LP in 2021, How Flowers Grow, which was more of like a fast, heavy kind of thrashy hardcore with abrasive vocals by Kat Moss, who has she I think does a lot of like the band's like visual aesthetic stuff as well, where like they may play like fast. They did start out playing a lot of like fast, heavy, like you know screamy hardcore with breakdowns kind of thing. Um, but all of their album art was like bright colors and flowers and like their
Oh,
singer on stage would wear like dresses, would dress like she's in Mad Men or something with like wild colored hair and like
is this Riot
just
Girl esque in any way,
it's
my
like
friend?
almost it's just like young kids who are tired of just wearing like dirty old Carhartts and just like they have friends that are into weird fashion, so they're they wear weird fashion too, or they're also into weird fashion, or but they also like hardcore, and they like the thing with Scowl
Hardcore
is
is like so open to weirdos,
yeah,
and I, from the moment of consciousness, I'm not, being like, "Oh, woe is me." I'm simply saying, from the moment I had like an awareness that I had an awareness,
yeah,
I'm like, I feel different than other people in some pretty key ways, and the way that my interactions with these people tend to go, needs to
yeah,
reaffirm that, you
hmm
know? So I'm like, I recognize that hardcore is one of those things where it's like any whatever the fuck you happen to be on whatever the fuck your tangent or trajectory is, you're welcome. And even if you do a shitty job at it and people insult you, you're still legit for showing up,
hmm
right? It goes beyond the fucking participation medal. It goes as like you fucking committed yourself to something that has no fucking chance of any normal social reward, and you're throwing yourself into that with your face planted squarely in a sidewalk, hoping beyond all hope that you're not gonna fucking break
yeah,
some teeth. And you don't break some teeth, that's fucking wonderful. And
yeah.
you get up and you try it again. I don't know where that came from, dude, but please do continue.
Okay, I was gonna say with that album, How Flowers Grow, that came out in 2021, there was one song on it that was a bit of a change in direction, uh, called "Seed to Sow," which is like this kind of like almost like X-Ray Specs or something, but just like kind
Fuck
of like
off, X-Ray
sung. It's
Specs.
got like
Have you
it has
listened to
like
them?
a horn
Next thing you're
set.
gonna
It
tell
has
me
like
you
a
listen to
sax. It
Make
has
It
like a
Rain
melodic.
song.
It has this really nice
Like
little sax section, and like it's like
X-Ray
instead of
Specs.
screaming, like the singer was actually singing, and it was just this nice little kind of like melodic punk song. And then this year they released an EP called Psychic Dance Routine, where they like took a turn for more like it's like they still had some like fast and screamy parts in there with some breakdowns and whatnot, but a lot more like they admitted to getting into bands like Elastica and Hole and stuff like that. and kind of like working those kind of sounds in as well. Like it's like, you know,
What
the
about
youth's
Veruca
discovering.
Salt? What about
Yeah,
Bikini
well, it's like,
Kill? Oh
well,
my
yeah, like
Christ!
it's like that kind of thing where it's like,
Oh
you know,
my
the youth's
God!
discovering the '90s, the '90s alternative rock,
Right.
and they're the
Lilith
band that sort of
Fair,
came from
anybody?
the
Christ.
hardcore
Okay.
scene
Like,
that started sort of playing around with those sounds right around that time. That sound got popular, and like they ended up touring with Limp Bizkit, and like,
I despise Limp Bizkit on
yeah, but it's like,
every
it's definitely, they're not a
single
band that fits with Limp Bizkit
molecular
at all.
thing
But
of my
like,
being.
you know,
I fucking hate
anyways,
Limp Bizkit.
just to take it back to the topic at hand, at least. Anyways, they're like another one of these younger bands that's like kind of moving from the underground to the more accessible, where, you know, old fucks like me would hear them on a regular basis.
Okay.
And like, you know, Scowl ended up playing, I think it was like halftime of like a major like women's soccer event, sponsored by Taco Bell or something like that recently, and just stuff like that. But they still, you know, they still seem like pretty cool folks who are still into, you know, it's like their hearts seem in the right place. They're just, you know, they're riding that wave of popularity, it seems. But they're also a band I've ended up listening to a lot this year, just because it's also, you know, when bands take a turn for the like slightly more accessible and catchy, it's something you can just like have on at a wider variety of times. And it's not just like, I'm gonna listen to like the grindcore blast beats hour or the like, you know, weird dark abstract hip hop or like some fucking out there jazz record or something. It's like, oh no, here's this kind of cool like alternative pop rock record I can just put on while I'm fucking making dinner, you know, after I get home from the office. Like, it's like, good
Don't
on
you
you
work
kids for carrying the tradition of making that
and
kind of
here's the
stuff.
21st century joke. You said when I get home from the office, and I said, "Don't you work at home, Dan?" Boom, boom, ching.
I do actually go to the office a couple days a
Shit.
week, so
Okay, fine. I'm like,
yeah.
you mean when you walk across, you know, when you go upstairs from your basement to where your kitchen is, and you're like, okay, folks who don't
Those
know,
days too. But
me,
for those days as well, whether I'm coming up from the basement or taking the bus from downtown.
okay, just
But yes, anyways, I kind of wanted to pack those two bands together because I know they've toured a lot together also, and just kind of they've both been like mentioned in the same kind of like, hey, look, it's the youths that are like starting to like jump to that next level of recognition. Here they are, like in Military Gun and Scowl, who again I would also both recommend checking out if you haven't heard them. I think they're both pretty good bands, honestly. And like, yeah, that's that. How about you, Matt? What's your next pick?
oh yeah. That all sounds so legit, and I'm so impressed with the fact you brought both of those in, and we were able to go on several detours. Needless to say, I'm as excited as anybody about the 2023. Like Dan said, I believe in terms of whether it's new music or reissues, there's been so much good stuff coming out. So this is to a point where it's like, what do I have to include, or else it's going to feel incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
Lucero should have known burnout. Should have known.
Oh,
Fuck. I love Lucero.
I
I
love
love
them too.
Lucero so goddamn much. Every record they put out is fucking awesome. And every song on every record they put out is fucking awesome. And they're from Memphis, which is a fucking hard ass town on musicians. It's like, and like, my last memory of a guy named Bloop, 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 who ultimately I stopped being friends with, is, he drove me out. I was in town visiting from Qatar. He drove me out to wherever he was staying. He was like, man, you really got to check this out. And I haven't seen the guy since, except when he sort of approached me for money and I ignored him. But I will say to that guy who we maybe maybe we know him based on my description, or maybe not. But he introduced me to Lucero, and holy fucking shit. I don't know, man. I almost feel like it's just leave it at that
Yeah.
after that one.
Oh God,
Because it's like
Lucero's so great.
another consistently fucking rad entry.
Yeah.
Every couple of years, it's just like reliable as a motherfucker. It's just like, wow, you people are just like a living version of the best of what I think Southern punk music can be. Honestly,
they're so great. They're just
yeah. And so hence I'm wearing the Lucero scarf.
nice.
Which I didn't want to make sure. I wanted to make sure I didn't leave them off. And I mean, really, since I've got it's maybe just a bit of time to kill, just in terms of things that I spoke to. Let's just say, okay, in case anybody's wondering what the Tommy Stinson Cowboys and the Campfire record looks like, I think that pairs very nicely with the Replacements offering that just came out. Again, I feel deeply regretful that I didn't make it to the dude's concert because I purchased the tickets and I literally I wasn't at the point mentally where felt like I could ask my mom for fucking money to go to a fucking thing and can I just stay overnight at a hotel and just can you throw me $300? I wasn't there yet. I became very easily that way, living in close proximity to my family. Oh yeah, just $200. Can you just but at that point I hadn't quite made that transition, so I missed his concert like the fucking lame ass motherfucker that I am. But that record is pretty goddamn good. It was long gestating. It was originally going to be on Fat Possum, but they couldn't quite come to terms with the label on how they wanted to do it. So whatever. This is a guy who he tours. I saw this on the Replacements, fan thing that most people go to. He's like he tours, half of the fucking year.
Oh, wow.
You think about that. You fucking think about that. You think about the guy who's 60 years old ish, and he's fucking on airplanes, and he plays gigs in people's backyards, in a laundromat, in a bowling lane. I really think it's if you can promise it's going to be nice and it'll be if he can sort of get his whatever. I don't know what his fee is. I don't even want to hazard a guess, but it's just sort of you're putting yourself out there. I would sort of think that that would sort of mean that either the Replacements are just a drastically financially insecure entity relative to their fucking legacy and output, or this dude is just fucking addicted to performing no matter what, because he's been doing it since professionally since age 11. Can you imagine being in the fucking Replacements or whatever thing at age 11 and that's your job? So anyway, it's a great friggin' record. And last thing I'll friggin' shoehorn into on this is things that I might forget. I don't want to forget. I don't have much to say about this one except that it's rad. Dave House.
Okay.
Drive It Like It's Stolen. And Dave House is one of these dudes who all the people on Instagram who are current punk people, Hot Water Music and friggin' just all the current crop of whatever. They're always they CC him as a guy. And, it was at the point where he on the Falcon, the Falcon featuring Lawrence Arms and one of the dudes from Alkaline Trio, on their second of their two records, included him. So it was the Lawrence Arms, friggin' one of the dudes from Alkaline Trio, and then plus this guy. So he's considered legit. He's based in Philadelphia, and it was one of those things where I actually was me and the me and Paula were hanging out, having some drinks and listening to vinyl because she's cool and lets me foist that on her. And she's like, yeah, this is one of the things that I like compared to most of what you played for me. So it's got hard. It's got that kind of post-hardcore vibe, airing on the Springsteen side, which some of these cats kind of go towards. Looking at you, Craig Finn from the Hold Steady. Looking at it's sort of like, you know, it's like, and it's like if I wanted to add one thing that I'll say, the last friggin' thing I'll say is I love the Gaslight Anthem. I love 3 records by the Gaslight Anthem. I love 2 records specifically, and then one from, the guy Brian Fallon putting out with the Horrible Crows, and they're friggin' genius. And everything else they put out is so mid. I have no time for. I wish I could add their release this year. I wish they had fucking Bruce Springsteen on their opening song, and I'm like, I wish I could add them to that. But when Brian Fallon tweeted about, or on his Instagram, he kind of said, Dave House, mayor of Philadelphia. I was like, oh, I know what that means. Oh. Dude, that might even be it for me. Where are you going? What's your next one?
Well, yeah. I kind of had 3 more, but they're
just
all
running past me, dude.
The thing though, the 3 more, they're all debuts, like debut full lengths this year. Like I think, yeah, they're all the artists have put out like EPs and stuff previously, but and I even have copies of a couple of them. And I guess they're all bands I've talked about on the show before, but still just so fucking great. And records I've listened to so much this year. The first being Edmonton's Homefront. Their Games of Power LP that came out this year. And it's like, oh man, they're just so great. And it's funny too, because it's like a guy from like a total like Rancid style street punk band, and a guy from like
Rancid style street punk band.
It's like, yeah, because they're one of the guys in the band, Graham, they're a singer, bassist, guitarist, previously played in the Wednesday Night Heroes, who originally originally just sang about like soccer, then spread out, or they crossed. I think some of them are anyway. I think they shared members with the soccer themed band, but anyways, they were like just more like kind of like that kind of like 90s street punk stuff. And the other guy in the band, Clint Fraser, played in Aughts Dance Punkers Shout Out Out. And
say that again. I don't. Were you drunk? Or were you?
No, they're. I think I got the right amount of outs. It's like I think it's Shout Out 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 or Shout Out 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 Out. I'll get it clear in the notes. Anyways, but yeah, these 2 dudes came together to start Canada's greatest Canada's greatest 80s band that never was.
Really?
And that's the best way I can describe them. Yeah, they had an EP last year called Think of the Lie. That was a lot of fun on La Vida Es un Muse, which is a British label. That's who put out this LP as well. And yeah, it's just like a mix. It's like a little flock of seagulls, a little bit of the Business, a little bit of the Misfits, even in some song, a song or 2. Like, and just like live, they have like a full band that tours with them as well. And like, yeah, they're just a lot of fun, really catchy. Like, it's like a good punk rock record you could put on for like a lot of different kinds of people. Yeah, just like probably like my favorite Canadian album of the year for sure. Then the next one is actually, I'll talk about a band I don't have a copy of the record of, and that's Hattiesburg, Mississippi's MS Paint, who released their debut full-length Post American this year, which is...
You've been speaking to them on this show at least 2 or 3 other times.
Exactly. Well, they're probably one of my favorite bands that I've heard in the past couple of years, to be honest. Yeah. And they're just like these like young, just like weird kids from a college town in the South who all have like playing 6 bands, and this is the one that clicked of their 6 bands that they all play individually at any given time, like with all their other weird little crew of friends. just all kinds of like wacky little home recording projects and stuff. I get the impression of when I've listened to interviews and stuff with them. And yeah, they're just like MS Paint are like, I don't know. It reminds me of that whole like it carries on the spirit of like sort of your classic like 90s aughts like Discord records kind of, or like even like yeah, just like it reminds me of like that kind of like almost like the Discord records kind of stuff, or like your Ebullition, or like those kind of things. But this is the 2020s version, and it's like a bunch of like weird kids from this small town in Mississippi who decided that they didn't want to have a guitar player, and they were only going to have keyboards, drums, and keyboards, drums, bass, and vocals. Yeah. And yeah, like it's, you know, they have like guest appearances by like Pierce from Soul Glow and like yeah, and Ian from Military Gun.
I love Soul Glow.
Yeah, they're so good. They're on another record. The next record I'm going to talk about as well. He shows up also.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's awesome.
But yeah, that MS Paint album, I've listened to it so much this past year, and it's just like really great, passionate, catchy, like, you know, just music with its own thing going on is the best way to describe it. And like some of the songs have like, you know, big anthemic rock vibes. Some of them are like, you know, kind of like weird, like synthetic like robot rock. And it's like,
I was gonna say Zappa-esque.
I don't know if it's a Zappa. Probably more more Devo
I've never
than
listened
Zappa.
to a Frank Zappa record in my life, so I'm saying, you know.
Yeah, no. Oh God, I literally grew up with like my mom was a Frank Zappa fan.
Oh
so
no,
I grew up with that music just around.
I'm a Zappa-phobe, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, that's just something that I just Well, she was.
I'm just like. Yeah, sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's something
that's
it's that whole thing is just like when I hear Peaches and Regalia, I just start to twitch. Okay. You know, like I just can't deal. But MS Paint, their album, really good. And finally, the last one I'm going to talk about is a record I actually ended up with 2 copies of because I'm a dumbass and realized that sometimes when you hit, you know, preload shipping information from Apple Pay when you're on a record label's website, it's really easy to accidentally hit purchase on something that, say, your significant other may have also bought you for Christmas, which is how I ended up with 2 copies of Zulu's debut LP, A New Tomorrow, which it's cool because one's on yellow vinyl, one's on green vinyl, but they're just like, this is another one of my favorite records of the year. It's a little more like the heavier side of things. But they mix in a variety of genres, and like they all kind of come from slightly different backgrounds. Like Anaya Lee, who's the guy who started the band initially as like a solo project, he was in a garage rock band called The Bots for a long time, and then played in like more like straight edge band called Culture Abuse for a bit. And then started Zulu on his own, and then sort of built a full band around it. And some of the other members come from like hip hop backgrounds and like more like straight ahead metal backgrounds, and just like for a variety of different genres, but like, you know, just trying to bring their lived experience as Black people to like making really awesome, heavy, passionate hardcore music that also incorporates all these other genres. And it's just a really fucking great record. And like I said, it's funny. My Spotify Wrapped was just like song from the Zulu album, song from the Zulu album, song from the MS Paint album, intro from the Zulu album, song from this album, you know, Military Gun, song from the Zulu album, song from the MS Paint album again. Like I've just listened to it so much, and it's like I said, most of the songs are short. Like I don't know if many of them are more. I think the longest one might be 3 minutes. There might be one that's 4 minutes, but that's because it's got a really long outro. But yeah, a lot of them are just like short, flat, fast blasts of just passion and anger, and like I don't know, they're a great band. I like them a lot, and yeah, Pierce from Soul Glow is on one of the songs that they also have another a vocalist from another hardcore band from Atlanta called Playtime, whose members are all black. And when they did a video for the song, they just redid the scenario video by a Tribe Called Quest with different members of the different band. Yeah. The members of the different bands dressed up as the members of the different
video
in the scenario. Yeah,
fucking genius.
Yeah. Like they're great,
Yeah.
and then like, like they're one of the just coolest bands I think going right now, and I think there's a great debut album that they put out. I hope they do more, And like I said, I ended up with 2 copies of it. And it's not like I'm going to flip one of them. Like,
it's a Festivus miracle.
Exactly. And I was a dumbass who accidentally, auto-filled a little too much shipping information, if you know what I mean.
I have spent so many thousands of dollars. Like, just, my kids are asleep. Nobody's going to talk to me on Facebook. I have what I consider significant resources. And okay. I went Picaroon's Pivot is what I went out to the, looking for today. And I found it. And my real last one, because I realized, as per my background, my background, Dan? Do you recognize this at all?
Yeah. What is that? Is that that's not the ship that got? It's some sort of shipping container ship. That's all I recognize.
Okay. This is actually a detail from the cover of Capsized by Sam I Am.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Or sorry, no, Stowaway. I'm like, Sam I Am, Capsized. Man, the holidays are a difficult time. Hold on. Stowaway. Yes, Capsized. I
did not recognize that album art. Sorry.
No, man. No, that's fine. I'm like, what do you mean? You haven't been living in my mind for the last year since this came out? I'm like, it's my favorite record, and I'm like, I'm like, anyway. They put out an amazing record. It's beautiful. You should check it out. Hence my moniker here on the thing, Sam I Amped.
Okay.
Right? Sam I Amped. I can't even pretend to be like one of these people. Like, I've been following them for years. This is really one of those things where it's like, when I took my sort of tumble into being a midlife, crisis record collector at a high level. I'm like, I guess I'll just buy 9 of them, and I'm sure they're all good. And as it turned out, past me was right on that regard. Well done. And even though I'm still paying for those credit card bills and will likely continue to do some for a while, the current girlfriend. Wow. I'm gonna Camtasia that out.
Yeah, we can cut that part out.
As opposed to like her and anyway. Merry Christmas, everybody. God bless us, everyone. Please listen to the new Sam I Am. Apparently. Oh, and I made a video from one of their songs with Octopus in it. I did a self-made video, and I shared it to them because in an interview with like the Village Voice, they're like, "What's the influence of this song?" And he was like, "It's about octopus." So I Googled a little bit further, Monterey Canyon, and I made like a lyrical thing of their song, and I just took octopus footage, and put the lyrics on it. I was like, I'll take this down if you don't like. And they were like, I like how they walk. That was literally what Sam I Am said to me. I like how they walk. Didn't tell me to take it down. And to my history of posting things on YouTube, I've had 260 something likes on it. It's by far the most popular thing I've ever posted on YouTube at age 45 by a embarrassingly significant margin. Anyway, man, God bless us, everyone. Anything else, man? I just kind of went in there.
I mean, there was just a lot of good
Throw
music
on
that
some
came
others,
out this
man.
year.
You got some
Like,
extra ones here. Anything else?
yeah, I'll just throw out some names real quick that I'm
Yeah.
gonna put in the notes.
Okay.
I mean, there's some other bands that we've already talked about, like Arm and Hammer, who we talked about a little while ago. I really loved their album this year.
Yes.
Danny Brown actually put out a new record like at the end of October that was good called Quaranta. I think I'm
Isn't that
pronouncing
guy
that
a
right.
mainstream hip hop guy? Isn't that what you're
Danny
talking about?
Brown, he's kind of his own thing. And like
Is
he's
he,
done more sort of like accessible. It's funny because at one point there's an alternate reality in the multiverse somewhere where he signed with G Unit, 50 Cent's record label. But they
Okay.
looked at him at the time where he was wearing like skinny jeans and had like
I
weird
think my
bleached
kid
hair
might like Danny
and
Brown.
like, you
I think
know,
my 14-year-old might have like shown me Danny Brown.
possibly. But like he's put out a couple records this year. One with it is like a collaboration with a guy named JPEG Mafia, who's more
Okay.
kind of like weird, avant-garde, abrasive, like new glitchy kind of rap. And this Quaranta album is sort of the album he made after he turned 40 and got sober, basically. And it was kind of a follow-up to his breakthrough album was called XXX, which is the Roman numeral 30, which he released on his 30th birthday.
Okay.
And he put this album out on his 40th birthday, but it was after sort of he'd gone and, gotten sober and started going to therapy for a bit and that sort of thing. And it's like and at the same time had also like moved to Texas because Detroit had gotten so gentrified he didn't recognize it anymore. And there's a great song on the album this album Quaranta called Jen's Terrific Vacation. That's him and I can't remember. It's like a jazz musician from Detroit collaborating on this weird kind of like, yeah, just I guess creepy. They like creepy vibes, almost sounding song about just sort of how Detroit has changed over the years, I guess, kind of thing. Like, and anyways, I really like that album too. That just came out a little while ago. And also another new band from Cincinnati, Ohio, called Sign Language, who are another one of these kind of like, like they remind me a lot of almost like Sunny Day Real Estate or like that kind of thing, but like maybe a little bit heavier. But they're all like, it's like, but they sound like Sunny Day Real Estate, but they probably got those records from their parents who were of the age to have gotten into Sunny Day Real Estate when they were around, like, the young kids kind of picking up the torch. Another one of those situations. Yeah. And also, on the heavier side of thing, the band Jesus Piece put out a new album called So Unknown that I really like. That's just kind of like, heavy side of hardcore. Like, definitely almost like, and not like sort of like death metal cliches or anything, but just like so down tuned that it's all just like abrasive rhythms, like that kind of stuff, and extra kick downs.
That's a good way of putting it.
But it's like Jesus Piece are cool too because like their singer also played in the band Nothing, who were a big part of the shoegaze revival of the past decade or so.
Shoegazer revival. We're in the extra minutes here, folks. If you're talking about shoegazer revival on this show.
Anyways, that's a whole other can of worms. But anyways,
Goodness.
I'll leave it at the new Jesus Piece.
Shoegazer revival. Oh
yeah.
my lord. Radical, like a
cannibal.
All right. I've enjoyed this episode a lot. And as a matter of fact, I can confidently say that the previous episode is about to go up, and this one might even just be a day or two. It really depends on the note situation as ever, but no question you will not be experiencing this particular episode before 2024. So
Happy New Year.
Whatever your cake is, It's been a slice. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Do